Good evening and welcome. Today is Wednesday, September the 16th, 2020, and this is the City of Anderson Board of Architectural Review. First item on the agenda. Again, anything?
I have one brief item to mention after the meeting.
Very good. Then we'll move into the public hearings. Do you want to do the first one? The applicant here? Very well. Then we'll begin with BAR 2022. Jeffrey.
The applicant is requesting approval for a new window sign at 104 West Whitney Street in the downtown historic district. The property is the new home of Wine and Design. The proposed sign would be placed on the front window, be placed right here above the door. Measure approximately 4 by 2. And so this is the graphic. You'd have the wine glass and the paintbrush and the lettering. The lettering would be white, not black. So it would just be with a clear around it, so not a background. So the only thing you would have, again, is the wine glass, the paintbrush, and the Wine and Design in white on that center piece of glass here above the doors. When reviewing this application, the board should focus on the standards set forth in Chapter 8 of the Downtown Design Guidelines, which are design guidelines for signs. The following sections apply to this request. The first policy states to design a sign to be in balance with the overall character of the property. Appropriate signs include window sign that is being considered, and a sign should be in character with those seen historically. The board must decide if proposed improvements meet the above criteria. If approved, we do not require a permit for a window sign. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have for staff, and the applicant is here tonight as well.
Very good. Vinyl graphics on storefront above the door, consistent with what we've seen and approved in the past. Any concerns, comments, questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Jill, second from Mary Lou. Hearing none, anything further? All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you so much. Next, moving on to BAR 2023.
The applicant is requesting approval for a new fence at 210 South Murray Avenue in the downtown historic district. The property is the home of Habitat for Humanity. The applicant is seeking to fence in the rear portion of the property. They've been having some security issues in the back of the lot, and so as a result, they would like to fence it in. And so what they are requesting is a fence to run from the corner of the building to this building here. There'll be a drive-through gate that's approximately here. They'll continue to fence from the back of the building to this corner, and again over to another drive-through gate at this location. What they're asking approval for would be an 8-foot tall commercial grade galvanized chain link fence. There is no specific language in the downtown design guidelines regarding fences. Therefore, when reviewing this application, the board should focus on the standards set forth in Chapter 7 of the Downtown Design Guidelines, which are design guidelines for site design. The following sections apply to this request. Really, it talks about minimizing the visual impact of a parking lot. Where a parking lot abuts a public sidewalk, provide a visual buffer. This may be a landscape strip or planter. Consider the use of a wall as a screen for the edge of the lot. Use a combination of trees and shrubs to create a landscape buffer. And where a parking lot exists that is presently not screened or landscaped, consider a landscaping program or an infill building that relates to the surrounding context. Again, this is not for visual aesthetics. This is for security is the reason for the fence request tonight. The board must decide if the proposed improvements meet the above criteria. I'm happy to answer any questions you have for staff, and the applicants are here tonight as well.
Very good. And while I can appreciate the concern for security, and this is not for aesthetics, the focus of this board is aesthetics and how that impacts the historic district, here particularly the downtown historic district. While our guidelines don't specifically address fencing, I believe all fencing that we've had here to date have been of materials and design consistent with other aspects of the guidelines. And I believe specifically, we have denied a previous request for chain link at another location downtown. Is that correct, Jeff?
We had a person installing a chain link fence who we stopped because it did not apply to the board, and it never actually came forward to the board for approval. They just opted to not continue.
Very good. So, comments, concerns, questions? Who wants to begin?
Jeff, can you go back to the first picture?
This one?
One more. That's this one. There's a slope in that parking lot. Would the fence be along that angle where those orange blockade pieces are, or whatever it is? Is that where it would actually be? Or would it be at the far side of the parking lot?
So it would run across this line here, up the side of the property, and this is the other side of that. In the drawing, it stops about here. So that, so it will stop right here at this point.
But it does follow that slope.
The slope really kind of stops at this point, and then it goes up from there.
Yeah.
So in this picture, it basically stopped right behind this car here, and then the slope starts at that point.
And that retaining wall in front of the slope, and for the photo, the height of that? The straight portion.
It's probably close
You know,
to
in front of there. In front of there, Jeff.
Lower.
There appears to be a straight section to that wall. Maybe not. Maybe not. So an 8-foot fence is gonna go up?
Yeah, it could be about 3 or 4 blocks high, which may just,
I mean, I guess the question would be, why not a wooden stockade fence? You know, the height of that would, I believe, provide you with some of the security that you're looking for and be more palatable with our guidelines. Your thoughts there, sir?
What did you say?
A stockade fence, wooden fence.
That's possible. So our approach when we were talking about putting up a fence initially from the security perspective, before we went too far, we wanted to see what the parameters around having a fence.
Which we appreciate very much.
And so before we did too much research, we wanted to talk to you guys, and so we can come back and depending on budget, what we can, what's recommended and what can work with our budget. So as far as recommendations, we're open.
Okay.
The fence itself would be below the ramp.
Okay.
It would start
Okay.
basically,
Yes,
Yeah.
right about there, and then cut straight over to where that pickup is, and across.
Cross and then down to the corner, and then corner over.
Okay.
You know, and while the height is extensive, nonetheless, it is the back of the property,
it is.
which,
People can, chain link fences can be very easily climbed, very easily climbed. Where wood stockade fences are not as easy to climb. And you can't see in through them.
but a wooden fence would meet our guidelines where we do reference fencing. The design will work as well and might be more palatable. Now, are you looking to modify an application tonight or just simply looking for input and direction?
we can modify to the stockade fence.
Okay. All right. So in that modification, any concerns or thoughts as to the height of the 8 foot? And granted that it's a little tall, but it is in a commercial district. Certainly would not consider that in a residential area or on the main front of the building.
My only comment about the 8 feet is that for an 8-foot fence, they would be required to get a building permit.
Okay.
Anything 7 feet or over requires a building permit.
But a 7 foot would not require that.
7 foot or over.
Okay. Okay.
What type of gates how would the gates change? What type of gates were you originally looking at?
So we were originally hoping one that would slide slide open. We will have to revisit if it's a wooden one, it'll probably have to be, if we can still do a slider, I'm not sure. Again, we didn't want to, have too many folks come out and quote us on fencing until we knew what was going to be allowed in the area. So if it needs to be a slide that slides open, or if it's a gate that opens.
And I think either would be fine for us.
They would also need to know probably if we would like to see that painted, or if it could be left
Just
the wood
treated.
material. Yeah, that would affect the pricing, I'm sure.
Any thoughts yet on those lines? Or are our thoughts along those lines to guide them?
Being a commercial fence and stuff, I don't really see where it's necessary to paint it, because it is in a commercial area behind the building and everything.
It would probably be less noticeable if it was not painted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, it'd be easier to maintain.
So either way would be fine with us, is that correct? That what I'm gathering?
Yeah.
Right, so if you're interested in modifying your application to a wood stockade fence up to 8 feet in height, stained, painted, or left natural, with the gate either to slide or to swing open, are you interested in doing that?
Yes.
Shalonda, you got that? Okay. So with that modification, further questions, comments, or concerns?
Motion to approve the changes?
A motion from Bill to approve with the modified application. Is there a second? From Andy? Anything further? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much for working with us.
Thank you.
Now on to BAR 2024.
The applicant is requesting approval for new solar panels on the property at 110 North Avenue in the North Anderson Historic District. The property is a single-family residence. The applicant is seeking to install solar panels on the roof of an accessory structure in the rear yard. You can see here the structure of the backyard, and then with the solar panels attached onto it. Another view of the electric. Now, the applicant is seeking to install their solar panels on the roof of an accessory structure in the rear yard. The proposed location of the solar panels is based on the solar suitability of the area and the desire to keep them off the front roof of the house facing the road. The installation will consist of 37 black low-profile panels on the building. And here's another view from the side street from Holly. You can see the building a little bit through the other property. And then again, this would be the view from North Avenue, and set back 150 feet, a little ways off the road there. So basically they sit about 4 inches high, so they'd be practically invisible from North Avenue. But again, you would be able to see them a little bit from the side road.
If you'll take us back to that previous photo, Jeff, and just point out where this accessory structure is.
So from Holly, this one.
Okay, yes. Okay,
So there would be panels that would be on this roof line here, which you can see, and behind the garage of the neighboring building. And then you would be able to see them along that roof line of their accessory building here as well. So again, from North Avenue, I think they'd be practically invisible. You would be able to see them a little bit through another property from Holly Street.
Okay, and could take us from the Hollyview Street view again, please?
So this would be
From Holly.
from North Avenue.
Right.
This is Holly here,
Okay,
and then from the main facade
okay.
there. When reviewing this application, the board should focus on the standards set forth in Chapter 3, Rehabilitation of Historic Resources, and Chapter 5, Site Design. The section regarding roofs and mechanical equipment and service areas applies here. Again, we have no specific language regarding solar panels, and so this is the language that I thought would help the most for this application. Now, the further policy states to preserve the original form and scale of a roof. It says to minimize the visual impact of skylights and other rooftop devices as seen from the street. Talking about skylights, should not be installed in a manner such that they will interrupt the plane of the historic roof. They should be lower than the ridge line. Flat skylights that are flush with the roof plane may be considered on the rear and the sides of the roof. Locating a skylight on the front roof plane should be avoided. And then in Section 5, the policy is utilities should be placed such that their visual impacts are minimized. Minimize the visual impacts of utilities and mechanical equipment. Provide adequate space for utilities. Locate mechanical equipment at the rear or sides of the property and screen them with landscaping if visible from the public right-of-way. And it talks about window air conditioning units should be located where they are not visible on a front facade. Again, the board must decide the proposed change to meet the above criteria. I'm happy to answer any questions you have for staff, and the applicant is here tonight as well.
Okay. For me, big import from your reading of the policy is visual impact. Solar panels, I believe, came before us once before. The proposal was on the front of a house. It was denied there. Simply because of the visual impact right off the bat. Here, the proposal is on an accessory structure with clearly less visual impact than if it were being proposed at the front of the house. I guess the question for us is still a bit of an initial review. What are our thoughts about solar panels in the historic district? And if so, under what circumstances? Here we have an accessory structure. Key for me also is this low profile, because I believe there are variations that Billy may be able to address it better. Various configurations of it, but the low profile being only about 4 inches off, I think is significant. And the visual impact, or maybe lack thereof, from the front street, and some minimal impact from a side street. I think the side street, it has to be considered as well.
I agree.
Because it's not just at the back. We have in the corner, it's a corner house, and the other impact on the surrounding area. So, those are the considerations that I'm looking at. Who wants to start?
Are we setting a precedent?
Well, yes, in the sense of if we approve these solar panels, the aspect would be under what conditions? What are we looking for? Why would we be approving them here? What's the criteria that we'd be looking for? That we would, if we were to approve under a specific set of circumstances, doesn't mean solar panels at will would be approved by this board or should be approved by this board. As we've seen in other instances, what are the particular facts and circumstances surrounding the application?
I mean, from a real estate perspective, outdoor living, whether it's porches, decks, whatever, views from your home flowing out has become very important. And so while I'm happy that it's not visually evident from North Avenue. I do have concern about side streets and neighboring properties that maybe right now, maybe it looks like, okay, that's just a garage apartment, but the next buyer might want to do something that's more elaborate or different, and how does that impact that neighboring property? And I think anytime you do something, you do have to be concerned with what is the impact on the neighboring properties and the surrounding properties, and maybe it's not a huge impact right now, but it foreseeably, it could be.
To give a little bit different angle on it, it's kind of like the vinyl windows that are double pane that we have to approve because it helps with the environment, it helps with the cost of electricity to heat and cool a house. This is a coming factor where we're gonna, it's part of the Green New Deal there. A lot of houses and businesses are gonna start going to these solar panels. And they've made an effort to not put them on the main part of the roof of the house. They're on that garage or carport back there, which is not really visible much from North Avenue or North Street, but they are from the other two roads. So there's two sides of looking at that thing.
Certainly.
Yeah. So.
And I do appreciate the fact that you are not looking at the main house. That meant a lot to me to see that. But I have to concur with Moyer, if I lived in the house next door, you know, what impact would that have? I agree with you as well, some kind of stuff.
They're not here, may I speak?
Oh, yes, sir.
They're not here tonight, but David Clardy, as you're facing the picture on the bottom, he is the neighbor to the right side with the larger array on that side, and he's actually pretty excited about it. And my friend Bud Henderson, he's on the left side, pulled that walk path so we can go back and forth. He's all on board. It's not an issue for him.
They're saying this one wouldn't be the
Maybe one.
or that out, the tower.
Okay.
Too bad Amanda Noble's not here.
I know, that's what I was
She
thinking.
lives right across the street. She could see that garage from
So did it get
her home.
Okay.
I just did a quick Google search about solar panels in historic districts, and this is not in any detail, but it does say that solar panels installed on a historic property in a location that cannot be seen from ground level will generally meet the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. Conversely, an installation that negatively impacts the historical character of the property will not meet the standards. And that's it. That'd say a whole lot.
So, with that, so the question would be, based on that article, does the solar panel affect the historic character of the property?
They're clearly not historic.
And neither is the garage.
Billy, your thoughts?
Jeff, do you have this image? Yeah, can you zoom out? That small parcel on the left side of Holly Street, yeah. Is the front of that house facing directly? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Forward, yeah. So they would certainly see it from the front of their house.
Right.
I believe the front of that house is actually facing a row of cedars.
Oh, really?
Okay, with the red box around my parcel, the trees that are along that back road, they're kind of all grown up into the power line.
Yeah.
I believe it's,
Be blocked off from those trees.
those cedars from their angle.
Correct.
I mean, our verbiage says to minimize visibility from the street.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really say from the main street or from the most important street.
Right.
So, I mean, But like Moyer was saying, your neighbor can still see it regardless if there's a street.
Yeah.
I mean, do we envision a circumstance when solar panels might work in the historic district?
I mean, it almost seems to me that we need some time to sort of study this issue. I may be wrong about that, but, you know, I would be interested. I mean, I do think solar power is a coming thing and something for us to consider as to whether it would ever be appropriate for an historic district, and maybe looking at some other examples, you know, in the state, just to see how they've handled various things. Probably would be helpful for me, but I know that doesn't help you tonight, so.
But I mean, as with so many instances that have come before us in a variety of ways, particular facts in the layout of the land have guided us.
Right.
You know, here, clearly, if this backyard area were totally surrounded by 12-foot Leland cypress, nobody would see it, minimizing any impact on the neighbors. Still, we have to consider the impact on the house and in the historic character there. But the openness up here does raise further considerations for us.
It does.
If they were skylights instead of solar panels, would that be a definite no, or are these different because they're?
Good question.
Yeah. I mean, it's a similar look, I believe. I mean, I don't think they look terrible, but they are a mechanical device attached to the roof.
I mean, when you look at the language regarding skylights, it just basically just seems to be my reading that if they were below the ridge line of that garage roof, then they would meet the intent of this particular section.
True.
So. And similar language with, you know, small DirecTV type satellite dishes, things like that, would be on the back of the roof, below the ridge line.
May or may not make any real difference, but the diagram indicates that pretty much the entire roof on both sides would be covered in panels.
That's correct. It was based on the previous 2 years of electric use.
Is
What's driving the size.
okay. Is that size required, or is there any modification with that? And again, I don't know that it would make any difference, but I've just got to ask.
I mean, some of the limits there is, yes, with the, it's either 2 or 3 feet, there has to be a setback on the roof, so there is access for emergency services, just basic National Electric Code requirements. So that is a constraint on how many can fit out there.
But I mean, could you get by with less? In serving your
You're saying
purpose?
that that amount is the minimum what you need to offset the electricity use based on the 2 years.
The goal was to offset, it's right around just above 60% of the electric bill right now. So you can go smaller, but you're still, all the engineering requirements, you have a lot of fixed costs with the system. The, like the power line is gonna go down the north end of the building and be trenched all the way down. So that's a fixed cost that, you're just getting a lot less bang for the buck as you start decapping the system and taking it.
Sure. And this is your personal residence? Is this your personal residence?
Yes.
This is gonna generate about 50% of the power that you use?
It's not gonna be approximately a 12 kilowatt system. My house, before I bought it, that carport, I believe, was built in 2014, I want to say. It was, it's a fairly new construction, it's just a standard asphalt shingle roof, nothing special about it. And the house is all electric, so even in the winter, when there was termite damage and when they had to lift the house to rebuild a lot of the first floor, all the natural gas service is cut, so it's heat, electric in the winter, which is what really drives it, and then AC in the summer, electric, water, stove, everything is all electric in the house. Yeah, peak summer, it's sized to be approximately a 12 kilowatt system, which is my fixed utility bills for electricity on the budget, not budget plan, but where they even it out over the year.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm struggling with the words right now at the end of the workday.
Equal payment plan.
$340 a month, which is,
Lot.
I would rather pay for the system and have some equity and offset that. But it's just, the house is an energy hog.
What about this roof line here? And I guess, I assume that would add to the fixed cost if you took those panels from that outside of the roof and kept those there and put those on this side?
The problem with that, for the installation, the front of the house with the 3 dormers, we're in the northern
Blocks the
hemisphere,
sun.
so you want the panels facing south towards the sun, so those would be tilted away from the sun. It would be very inefficient.
Okay.
That's why the carport is, there's no shade on it. Even the cedars in the to the north are far enough away, so it has constant sun throughout the day. It's oriented. That diagram is actually about 30 degrees off. If you tilt it left about 30 degrees, we have it oriented north-south, a little bit farther. So the sun will come up over on the right side and go across. The ideal place is on the front of the house, but that was not a rival, so.
Yeah.
There's a large oak tree that provides a lot of shading, so you want to try to take down a 5-ton tree.
You know, narrowing our focus a little bit, or as to how we're looking at this. You know, Billy pointed out Holly Street and the visibility from another street, regardless of whether it's primary or secondary street to the residents. But Moya pointed out the effect on neighbors. This particular configuration from the front of your house, we don't see it. Nice low profile. If I were to be inclined to approve solar panels, which I'm open to, this particular configuration looks appropriate to me, passable to me, acceptable to me from the front of your house. But as others have pointed out, it's not just your house and the character of your house that we have to consider. Its impact elsewhere, because these guidelines are for the benefit of your house, but also being able to be relied upon by neighbors as well. And that's where I'm struggling. As far as, you know, from your house looking at it, I think the configuration and the situation would be acceptable. But I'm just struggling with the other. And
I don't have a problem with it being that it's not a historic structure, that it's going on, and it is at the back. It's below the ridge line. I mean, I think my main concerns have been addressed, and I don't think there's any way of getting around that we're going to have solar panels in the historic neighborhood eventually. It might take a lawsuit to get it. There, I'm sure. So, unlike the last installation, which we saw, which the whole front of the house was covered in, that was hard to take. I'm inclined to be in favor of allowing it.
Well, John, you suggested like a Leland cypress row or something. Would that
Well,
impact the?
well, the comment was if the backyard were totally insulated, then there would be less impact on the neighbor concern that you and Moyer raised.
Well, I'm looking at this photo here. I just wondered if there, I don't know how much property you have on the left side of the garage. But I mean, I was wondering if you did something like that, a cypress or something, would that impact the effectiveness of the panels?
Yeah, that garage is pretty close to the side property line there, and then
I think it would be
The
the
property
Yeah.
line is like 3 feet something.
3 feet, okay.
And so you also have the same concern on the other side, other neighbor.
Yeah.
Basically, the property line runs right up
That's
the
true,
left side of
too.
the eve of the garage.
Yeah.
But then you gotta stop it, so it drops down, so I've got just a couple feet on the edge.
Yeah, so if you planted something to block them, that would probably have an issue with blocking the light as well.
If you look at page 4 or 5 on the packet, it's marked as 3 and 6 inches.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I mean, if we're gonna agree that these are coming, and we're gonna see more and more of these, we have to narrow down the visibility, because, I mean, somebody's gonna see it
Right.
always.
Right. Yes.
Right.
So we can't just rule it out just because somebody can see it. I think because it's on an accessory structure, that's a good starting point.
I agree.
And it's not right on Holly Street, which I think would cross it off the list if it were. There is another residence or property between the structure and the street. And it's not on what we would say is the main street. It's not visible from that street. So I really don't know what else you can do if you're going to allow solar panels. I mean, I'm really not sure what else he could do because it's going to be visible from a neighbor one way or another.
Yeah. Right about that.
I have an opinion.
Sure.
My personal opinion is, if you're buying a home in a historical district, you want it to be historical. I mean, you wouldn't buy it if you didn't like older homes and their character and their personality and all the old trees and the neighborhoods and everything like that. So I just feel that we should not allow them. That's just my opinion.
The blanket.
Hmm?
Blanket,
Yes.
not allowed.
Yes. I mean, what did he say his bill was? $340?
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad for 2-story houses.
Same as one. Exactly what mine is.
Other thoughts, comments? Important matter before us tonight. You know, as Jill's position in the argument, do we allow them under any set of circumstances? If the answer is no, then we move on. If the answer is yes, then the question would be under what circumstances, what parameters would we be looking for? I mean, as Billy's pointed out, and I've commented as well, the configuration here is probably the best possible, short of being totally enclosed and backyard nobody could ever see.
So are we saying if it were an old garage, that we wouldn't allow it?
I don't necessarily know that we're saying that.
Okay. I mean, I know we've said it's not a historic structure, so I'm just trying to sort of figure in my mind what we're thinking in terms of, we know it's not a house, but if it were a 1940s garage, is that a difference than the newer
And
version?
there are a number of those in the neighborhood.
You know,
Right.
that's a valid question. You know, would it make any difference if it were an old accessory structure? You know, clearly, if it had extensive architectural details to it that would be damaged, ruined, maligned by solar panels, sure. But if it were just simply an old garage as opposed to a newer garage, which in many of those that you've referenced are very simple garages, they're just simply old, would that make a difference? I mean, for me, again, as Jeff pointed out and said to start with, the visual impact is paramount if we were to cross the threshold and allow them. Then the question is the visual impact based upon the situation before us at that time. And every case will be different. So while we might be establishing some precedent to allow it under under some circumstances, it wouldn't be a blanket allowal, in my opinion. We spent a lot of time talking and asking questions. Are we ready to make a decision? Anything further you'd like to add, sir?
Just kind of at the mercy of the board.
Okay.
And your neighbors have both,
About the home, I was curious about, I knew it was an historic district, I read the bylaws or the guidelines. I actually went and visited Mr. Gilbo in his office, and I asked if the intent was to turn the neighborhood into a time capsule. And I was told very much no. My neighbor across the street, Amanda Noble and Stewart, their roof is a shingle roof. It's black with kind of a sparkly appearance to it, very similar to what a solar panel looks like. The large white house across the street is a slate roof, which is a shiny, reflective surface.
I think there's a distinction between any sparkles or whatever in an asphalt roof or in a slate roof with solar panels. I think there's a rather large distinction there, I would think.
The point being that I don't think that either of those roofs are unpleasant to look at or problem for anyone else in the neighborhood. I'm not sure that I wouldn't consider that the solar panels would be an eyesore at all.
Thank you.
That's not my decision to
Right.
make, so.
I mean, we're happy to view it as it really is. It's a mechanical device on top of a roof.
And I guess
I mean, it's a
my
fixed
concern,
surface that doesn't move, so I would draw a distinction between mechanical, it's not a weather vane that's spinning or a wind turbine that actually does cast a shadow that moves, to collect wind energy. It's not one of those, it is a fixed surface, much like, the roof that it's gonna be bolted down to.
Yes.
I guess my concern, number one, old houses to me I'm with Jill on that one. I don't want to change windows, I don't want to put vinyl. They're what they are because they're special. But, and I live in this neighborhood. And just from our backyard, there are 3 historic garages. And I guess my concern is if we allow it on one, and then this person also gets it approved from one property, you could be looking at 3 structures that have this. And my house is not the only one that would be affected by a situation like that. And 2 of those properties back up to our privacy fence, and it would be right there. And I guess that's my concern, that
Visual impact.
there is an impact.
There is a
It could
visual
be a bigger impact, and how can we say no to someone else when we said yes to this? And I know that probably shouldn't affect the decision, but I'm thinking of.
Well, it is, I mean, it's significant in that we would be opening the door.
Correct.
Open the floodgates.
This might be something you might want to update in your guidelines so that prospective buyers will know at the time, because this is coming on a large scale in the years to come. So they have, like I said, it doesn't address it at all, so kind of having to find your way on it.
Right.
Certainly.
Well, I'm hopeful in the years to come, there'll be a product that looks like a roof.
There is.
There is.
That would be
There
something
is.
that's easily approved.
They have a flexible panel.
Have,
There is, that is already available.
It is not available in this area, I checked. This installer, they are certified to install the Tesla Powerwall, which is a battery pack. The Tesla solar roof is not available in this area yet.
Well, hopefully it's coming soon. All right, folks. I don't know that there's much more to discuss. My question is there a motion to approve? As there's not, the matter fails. be happy to study this further. Get any further insight. Thank you very much.
I'll contact some other agencies and see how they're handling it, in terms of solar panels, just for some feedback.
Very good. Thank you, Jeff. And I know you'll keep in touch with Mr. Landry as well.
Would it be possible to consider it if we only did half the system on the east facing facets? It would be not visible from either road.
You just did this side, not.
And I appreciate that, but we still have the same concerns for the neighbor on that side.
Would you like to hear from him?
Well, it's not just that neighbor. I mean, we'll be happy to hear from him, of course.
You were concerned about him.
And
But if he were to sell, then the next person that buys the house, how do they feel about it? Those kinds of
They
things.
would buy knowing that they were already there then, but it would be a known condition at that point, but.
what I'm gathering is that we're just not quite ready to open that door to allow solar panels in historic district. We worked with growing technology as much as possible, and I think we've been really consistent on minimizing any visual impact, but solar panels are significant visual structure. And that is what I'm gathering as to why it was not a motion to approve. Thank you, sir. We'll be happy to continue dialogue with you, Jeff. Next, we're on to the final item, BAR 2025.
Applicant is requesting approval for a new fence at 1601 North Boulevard. The property is a single-family residence in the Boulevard Historic District. The applicant is seeking to install a 5-foot tall black metal fence on the property. So, just for reference, you have the house, the pool, and the garage building. I'm gonna put this up. Yeah, right. And black aluminum fence. So, the fence would run between the pool and the garage here with a small gate. The fence would also run along the driveway side, from the back corner of the house, across the driveway with a gate here to connect with some existing fencing that is located here. This fence would possibly be replaced in the future with either a wood stockade fence or matching aluminum. And then here, you'd have a 6-foot tall Charleston style wooden fence, which should be this fence here. So, black metal fence from here to here, from here to here. There's a matching black metal fence located in this section already, so the proposed fencing is matching fencing that is already on the property. And then down along the roadway, you have the wooden fence here, and then this fence would eventually be replaced with either aluminum or possibly more of the stockade fencing. There is existing fencing in that location now, which is a mixture of chain link and wood. In the pictures, it's hard to see because it's overgrown, so this will be clearing away the overgrowth and installing a new fence. When reviewing this application, the board should focus on the standards set forth in Chapter 5 for site design. The section regarding fences and site walls applies here. The policy states that a fence or site wall should be in character with those used traditionally and relate to the principal structure on the lot. This to preserve original fences and site walls. Where no fence is just keeping the yard open may be the best approach for a front yard. Where a new fence is needed, it should be similar in character with those seen historically. Appropriate materials for fences that can be seen from the public right-of-way are wrought iron or wood picket. And the side yard fence should be set back from the primary facade of the home. The board will decide if the proposed improvements meet the above criteria. The only other comment I have is I spoke to the neighbor on the other side of Highland, and she was very enthusiastic about the project. So she was definitely in favor of the work. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have for staff, and the applicants are here tonight as well.
Do we have a photo that we can really see what's going on here? The copy of the aerial that I've got, I can't. Okay, that helps a bit.
So you've got the house here, the fence would come along here. You've got a wood stockade fencing here, the metal fence here between the pool and the garage. This is an existing fence that will be replaced, and there's existing black metal fencing matching between the house and the pool at that side.
Okay, the fencing that would be replaced, that section, currently is what? Do we have a photo of it? I know it's overgrown.
It's all changed.
You can't.
Really can't even see it's there.
Okay.
That's the fence.
Oh.
Okay. So unless you're right up, when I was up close to it, I could see there was chain link there, but other than that, it's
Okay.
just overgrown and you can't see anything right now. So either way, this section would go from chain link to either the 5-foot black aluminum or the 6-foot wood stockade fence. So it would be replacing
Okay.
chain link with another more suitable material.
Why the wood 6-foot stockade? That's what I'm struggling with.
Well, so there's two reasons. One, it's almost impossible to get, the supplies right now. It's really, we would already be looking at this before they have the material, the black aluminum. It's also a cost issue. There's already a wooden fence that runs along the back property line, so it would be kind of matching in that sense. It's not drawn on here. I apologize for the poor drawing, simply because of the time frame. We're purchasing the house this month, and so we had to kind of rush this to get it to you in order to get it going. But there's already a full-length wooden fence along the back of the property. There's a chain link that kind of comes halfway out, and then
So the wooden fence actually that he's talking about that runs the back line of the property actually wraps around, almost like an L, and then stops randomly, and then starts a chain link that's falling apart along Highland.
I'm lost with that photo.
Can I comment? I'm the listing agent, so I'm going to abstain from voting, but I think I can help you visualize this a little bit better. So Highland's here, the driveway goes in here, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but they're correct. There used to be there's a stockade fence sort of along this line because it backs up to commercial. Okay, so it's sort of along this
On the
line.
back property line behind the garage.
Yes, okay, but
So this is commercial back here, that front on 10th Street here.
yeah, but go back to the other one. But this is like a little side yard, okay, where they've had a garden, et cetera. And so, along here, as she was saying, there was a stockade fence that sort of came part of the way. It collapsed. There's some old chain link along here.
But I thought the chain link was further up. What Jeff was showing.
It goes on up, okay? So,
It runs along Highland where the wood fence stops, and then it cuts it onto the property to the corner of the garage. That whole part is chain link.
okay.
So all of that is chain link.
Yes.
Except for stockade back here.
But again, you can't really tell. When I was out there, I didn't realize there was any wood fencing out there because it's so overgrown.
The mailbox is like right here at the side, so the mail gets, and it's a pretty little entrance right here on the driveway. I don't know.
Stockade along the back of the property. Understandable.
which you can't see from the front anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's understandable because you're bucking backing up to commercial, but this stockade L there, I just got questions on. Maybe just difficulty with photos or.
It's kind of odd, it's like, it's like either they ended the fence early or started the other one, there's chain link there now, which is kind of nice, or to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm trying, Zillow actually has some pictures on it, and you can kind of see a little better, but here's the issues that we have dogs, and we're trying to make sure that our dogs can use the lawn, because right now, with the way this setup is with the driveway, there's really, the only area that's truly fenced in with a gate is that side area with the mixed fence, and then the pool area. Right, that's honestly falling apart. And so, our goal was to improve the look of it, and also allow our dogs to be able to roam free without. Yeah, so this is looking from the street up, and where it's overgrown, kind of upward towards the left there, is where the chain link runs, and then it curves around the front of the property, or the side of the property.
Which is, again, that's the chain link fence right there.
I mean, I understand the fencing of the yard for the dogs. I mean, I have no problem concerned with that. It's just the 6-foot stockade fence is what I'm questioning as to that.
And I'm not sure what the height of one on the back is, but it's probably 6 feet.
But again, on the back of the property, butting up to commercial, totally understandable. But it's just that other section here. But it's my concern. Folks, comments?
You're talking about the 67-foot section here, up to the 24-foot?
This. This is what he's talking about.
Here, the 58-foot.
Okay. All right, folks. Questions, concerns?
If the material was available, would you do the whole thing in the metal fence?
So it was, some of it's cost as well too.
It's always cost.
And I'm not opposed to doing it all metal if we can get it. But, we're using, family friends who are doing this for us, and they're telling us they can't even get some of it until probably mid-December. So if it's a possibility, then maybe. But honestly, the big thing we want to actually do now is the iron fence across the driveway. Because if we do that, we at least have a fence there that we can use to let the dogs out. And we can, we're not opposed to doing it all black if we can get the equipment for it. It's just whether or not we can or not. And if we can't, if wood's acceptable, we'll start with that. And it'll likely be staying or painted.
I got a problem with the metal fence.
You do have a problem?
No problem with the metal fence at all.
I can see the value of redeeming a stockade type fence in that portion if there's a need for privacy or if they're wanting to garden and do any other type, composting and that type of thing. I mean, it's allowable and I don't see.
We do back up to, basically commercial property, so.
Eventually, I was hoping to plant Leland cypresses along that anyways to make it blend back in. I would like for it to get kind of covered back up, maybe with some jasmine or something. I prefer the greenery, but, the corner that's highlighted where our driveway is of that fence is, like, the top part is not even there anymore, so
It's just flopping in the chain. It's pretty tough.
But again, it's a safety and privacy for us, for our dogs. We have an 8-month-old and are expecting another one, so also we want to make sure that our dogs and our children, as they grow up, will not be able to run on the island or on the North Boulevard,
But that containment is in the black metal section, correct?
Well, there's both. And so right now there's a chain link there, there's a fence. And our plan would be, the dotted line is kind of a question mark, like, do we just open it all up versus do we keep it, separate, as a separate fenced area? And so that's why we weren't really 100% sure on what we were going to do with that yet. I know that from your standpoint, you probably don't want any chain link fence fence if possible, so.
No, we,
Right, so
we wouldn't.
we prefer to move to two, simply because honestly, like our dogs probably can get over the chain link fence if they were there. And that's the other concern is that they're not apt to do that, but they can. It's a low enough fence, and it's a new environment for them. We're going from a quiet, kind of closed neighborhood with woods behind us to a busy, city kind of neighborhood, and, I don't want my dogs to get hit by cars or anything else, but, and it's just a kind of unknown, so.
So we're definitely willing to do the aluminum. We like the privacy of the wooden fence on that back side. We do garden, currently have a garden in our house. We'll continue that in that back section. But our goal really is the safety too of the dogs. So if y'all are, children, I think. I mean, 8 months is a little early right now. But it will eventually be running. So because of time, one of the reasons we like the Charleston style was that wood is available. When I spoke with Alex at Pioneer Fence today, he said, aluminum, when he spoke to him today, is back up to at least who they work with, December, possibly January, especially gates are very difficult to get right now. Hopefully, I think the economy is so good, hopefully that production will start ramping back up again, but that's where they are right now with that.
But until you have the metal fence coming across your driveway, you don't have it enclosed.
Well, we'll have to walk them back to that area.
It's been a minute.
We're not leash, so yes, that's something we'll have to deal with.
Does that make sense?
Okay, and does this stockade fence marry up to the back?
It would.
If that's what they're talking about it doing.
So this would marry up, this would come all the way to the back property line, correct?
Yeah, again, I'm
It's so overgrown, you can't even see the wood stockade. It's totally overgrown.
Right. so-
This is pretty open right now, John, as far as, they're right about the fence, but you don't really, like if you were just riding by, you don't really notice,
Right.
So the difference would be, creating a barrier, so to speak, with the stockade type fence. I think I'm saying that correctly. But it does have the stockade running along the back side,
all the way to how far?
all the way.
There's actually a gate back there because there's an RV area back there. Like, hook up there with the car owners. I would have better pictures if I owned the property, but I don't, so.
The only question seems to be that one area of possible stockade, which you tie into an existing stockade fence.
But coming all the way up to the driveway, I mean, that.
Well, it's not really all the way to the driveway, so there's a whole area of garden outside of that chain link fence and where it kind of curves right there that is kind of elevated up. I mean, either, it wouldn't, I don't think, if I could show you pictures better, I don't think it would be as bad as it sounds.
Because it doesn't sound real good, I gotta be honest with you. To me, on how far off of Highland is this stockade fence 6 feet tall?
It's a pretty good distance.
That doesn't tell me.
I can't get access, I get pictures on this.
Yeah, I was trying to see too.
Can you go back to the picture of the wood fence itself, Jeff?
And the wood, I mean, I mean, the wood fence, the picture, and that is just an example.
Of the
Obviously,
solid.
That's perfect.
There's a style that is better or more suited. We're open to that.
Unfortunately, it reminds me a lot of the 6-foot fence on
Franklin Street.
Franklin, yeah, that we had to have taken down.
If it's, is it gonna mess up people's sight lines when they're driving?
No way. I don't think you're envisioning where it is.
I know exactly where it is. Dennis, the Coxes live,
Yeah, Donna's
Right.
is right across
It's
the
a house.
street.
Coxes live in this
That's
corner.
correct.
So,
This is Garrett's old house.
That's correct.
So I don't know how.
I don't have a problem.
I'm just trying to see understand how you thought it could impact sightlines.
Well,
driving.
I was just wondering about John, because that's what I'm.
Well,
Frankly,
part of that was sight lines,
Uh-huh.
but also, I mean, it was just
I mean, in front of the house.
visual impact was horrendous.
Right. It was the whole thing. This is not, this is,
So I don't, it's kind of hard, this is from that back area that's already fenced in where the vegetable garden is. You're looking towards Highland right there, and you can see the wood stockade in the background towards the right, and then you can see all the way, it's not really showing very well.
Around the corner behind the Adirondack and then stops and turns and changes.
Right, so there, right there where, you kind of see where the chairs are and the fire pit, and there's a tree, that's the end of the wood fence, and then it's this kind of broken chain link right there. But there's nothing, I mean, literally behind it is a parking lot. So, and, you know, it's obviously the neighbor across the street. But that's just to kind of give you an idea of that area, and then the chain, let me see what the other pictures are.
So Highland is actually not quite as grown up as the chain link running up our driveway is.
That's kind of giving you a look toward the back corner of the house too. The fence would not come all the way to that, to the mailbox.
Nowhere near it, actually.
It would be where it already is, so it's back up.
how many feet would you guess it's back, Moyer? From the street?
Is it the same as that 24 feet that is shown in the other drawing?
No, it's not that far from, I don't, 10 feet maybe,
That's what I would guess.
something like that.
12 feet.
Yeah.
And there are also a number of, I guess they're like pine trees that are there already, which I'm not planning on taking down. I think they might, I don't even know if they're on technically our property. But it's pretty far off, especially up North Boulevard. So. Again, I probably do have better pictures, but like, I don't.
Yeah, I'm trying to find them too, but I can't, so.
Any other comments, questions?
Well, we've approved stockade fences along the work up to the sidewalk on the front part of the house. We approved on the sides. In fact, there's one right off of Highland there, I believe it is, that we did. And this is set back from the edge of from the
But we
street.
don't know how far it's set back, and it's 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got concerns.
I mean, if you think of, trying to think of other examples, Bill has a fence that runs down the alley on the side of his house. How tall is that fence?
6 foot.
6 feet. And if you think of like Dan Gregory's house, where it runs down Manning Street, he's got that fence.
That's 8
That's 7 or 8 feet running down. It's, again, it's a side yard, and so it's not in front of the house. He's got a picket fence in the front, but then along the side street, he's got that taller wooden fence there, which is a little bit fancier than this, but I'm trying to think of any other examples where we've done that high.
Right, yeah, and again, that was just a picture of the example, because again, from a timeline standpoint, where we went to, under contract with this, to where I had to get in and get this set up before, as soon as possible. So we felt like we got to come here and give us an estimate and everything else.
You go on the right, in that very first block, there's a house at the fence comes all the way up, almost to the street, by the side. It's a side. It's on the side of the house. It's on the side, the house faces another street.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful house, I just think, I mean,
Okay, Billy?
I was just gonna say, it was just the site plan that was throwing me off initially. It just looks like, a pieced together fence that doesn't really line up with anything. But as you described the site and the adjacent properties, I think it could work. It's maybe just the site plan that makes it look a little too close to the street when it's probably not.
And I apologize, it's actually my cousin who has the company, and I asked him, well, I don't have the pad,
Yeah.
Anyways, he's not to that level, and he said, this is really the best I can do, because they don't need it. So I apologize for his drawing.
That's 24 feet from the edge of the driveway to, yeah, right there. That's a pretty good distance.
So it's gonna be more than 24 feet at the bottom.
We don't
No.
know.
I
You think it would be more than 24 feet?
Setbacks, we have beautiful trees and, growth there, it's actually gonna fit right in with that, it's not even really gonna be that big.
It's slowly I've got
Same here.
Google Maps.
Well, I'm trying to do the virtual tour, and it's just
Jeff.
being really slow.
That's where the mailbox was again, Victor.
That was the phone.
Okay.
Sorry,
Oh,
I'm trying to get the Google Maps.
That was.
Yeah, there's
As you come into, the mailbox is back here, as you come into Lindley Park,
Well, it shows the driveway and the mailbox is a.
coming from downtown, going into where the airport starts, is a house with a wood stockade fence right along that main street, but the house faces
And we approved it, it faces Forest.
which one are you talking about?
Downtown, down east.
Forest. Oh, yeah, Forest.
I've got it 3D here.
I think that's what,
We did it.
I can't do
Let me see if I can get to the.
that.
John, does that help?
Yes, that does help.
So approximately how far back
Okay.
would
There
it
you
be?
go.
Where is that chain link fence now?
So just to give you an idea, it's a long piece of property. So if you're kind of looking at it from Highland there, there's a house, the metal fence will start up against the property there, run across the back of the driveway.
See,
Well, it starts at the back corner of the house, correct?
Right, to the black.
Right.
So it's a ways off from the street. And then
yeah, okay.
Here,
right, but they don't care at all.
I know,
They're
so
not worried about it.
I'm just trying to give you the whole visualization on.
There we go.
So where that car is kind of where the fence would come across more or less.
Oh,
And there's a lot of brush already there. So any of that we can salvage and keep and we will, it's just that the fence is, you're not gonna let me repair the chain link, are you?
Yeah.
So it's either have a broken fence and two dogs are running around.
That's
or
right.
We find something that's a compromise, I guess.
Where does the stockade come in relation to the mailbox?
It's all the way down in the corner, wraps around, maybe for 5 feet
I
and
have
it
a
stops.
picture for you here. So
Yeah, you can
that's
see the
all,
top of that.
this is the chain link that's there right now.
oh, okay.
Right there, okay, so,
Is that where the, new stockade used to be?
Yes.
correct.
That's my problem.
Here it is.
So close to the road. If it were back farther from where the car is, got no problem, but
Well, then we lose the whole side. That's what I'm like.
I understand. But then when you were showing before from the mailbox, it looked like, represented a lot
This is
farther
the
back.
overgrown part, kind of looking at the back. Trying.
Can you
So
back
it's not
up?
gonna go anywhere near the mailbox, it's gonna stop
Right there.
basically right there,
Right, but
at that angle.
it's closeness to Highland that I have a problem with.
Okay.
But that's me. I think it's,
Here it is. Yeah.
Well, so what would be an acceptable?
the metal fence would be ideal.
Okay.
But that's not
Um,
privacy, though. That doesn't give them any privacy.
Could you do landscaping or
Is
not?
it because Highland, because, I mean, literally, if you drive a block further, you're in like, you know.
You're outside the historic district.
Oh, come
So, I guess if we did.
So, I mean, that's literally, so I guess I'm wondering, is the concern that it's because it's on Highland? Because technically our neighbor on Highland is a parking lot for a hospice clinic.
But back behind.
Right.
Okay, but back behind, I mean, I totally understand there, it's just that side that I have a problem with. With that close proximity to Highland, if it were farther back where, what we first thought when you referenced the car, that's behind all the brush, but when we get a closer view, that's my concern, that's me.
So if we did do the aluminum all the way along that, just forget the wood fence, just have it meet meet the existing stockade fence that's there.
Yes.
You would be fine with that.
I would be fine with that.
And, I mean, we could, I could plan, Caitlin, I don't have to get.
I mean, I'm okay with it, I just, my concern is getting the material.
Well, but I mean, you could have that issue with any of the fencing.
Well, not the wood.
Well,
Not the wood.
He could start the wood fence.
And the main reason we continue the wood is simply because there's already wood fence there, so. Would it matter if we didn't, if we did iron around? So either way, you don't like the wood on top,
no.
even though there's existing wood there.
But the existing wood's on the back of your
Well,
property.
Well, I mean, it's right, you can't see it because there's so much overgrowth in the pictures back there, but it wraps around on the hollow. So. It's already there. We basically extending or replacing what was there with that.
The photo I saw was the chain link there along Highland.
There is, and it needs stockade part of it.
Right.
Not the back wall, but it wraps around.
It L's a little
What if
bit.
it was
Just
shorter?
a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Shorter? You mean like height wise?
John?
I mean, I like doing it all, the consistent material of the aluminum. That sounds great to me.
Can we, while we're waiting on the aluminum, either put up temporary fencing to prepare that part of the fence? That's chain link until we can get the material we need for the fence?
Temporary wet fencing.
Just some, well, where the chain link is broken on that side, some type of temporary fencing. Just, anything. Something that will stop a dog from potentially going through.
Jeff?
I mean, on the temporary basis, and if we know it's for a limited amount of time, I mean, if you did like on something on the inside of the property, like just even like a chicken wire fence or
I was
something.
gonna say a
inside
pig
that's
wire or
Not
something.
visible.
Yeah.
Until then, I have no objection to that, so.
It wouldn't be permanent, just in order to give us a place to live.
We know it's not gonna be permanent. They're not gonna look at that every day.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if Jeff's okay with that, then I am.
And we're fine doing the black around the fence, we can do that, that's not.
Thoughts, comments?
Thank you, Mario.
Of course. All right, so we have before us the initial application, and then there's an offer of modification for doing it all in aluminum. What's your thoughts, pleasures, motions?
Just before,
Yes, sir.
we could still do stocking along the back if we need to replace it, correct?
Yes.
That would make sense.
That commercial side.
Okay.
Make a motion that we
That
approve
would be replaced with
with
non-public approval too, correct?
Sorry?
If the board was to approve this, we would consider adding that in there as an approval to replace the existing wood stockade fence with new wood stockade fence in the future.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Bill?
Make a motion to approve with placing a wood stockade fence with a wood stockade fence and all of aluminum metal fencing for the rest of it.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
You wanna do the temporary thing?
Consider it temporary and move on with that part, so.
Okay. So we have a motion, second from Jill. Anything further? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Noting that Moyer has abstained. And will recuse yourself. Thank you very much. We appreciate your patience.
Can I make a comment on the solar panel? Just as my opinion.
Sure.
Someone moving to the neighborhood.
Sure.
Younger. I don't personally find them to be an eyesore because I do think it's part of where we're going. As a country, as a world, we're gonna see if it's gonna come back up. I do think there's ways you can get around it, like, maybe reshingle the roof in a black or darker color so that you don't notice it as much. But I wouldn't personally, it wouldn't stop me from buying a house next.
Thank you, sir.
Just as something, because I've never done it on, it's not, to me, it's
kind of progressive move towards a cleaner environment.
I think it's a generation map.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Part of his generation.
I'm looking forward to the material that's,
Yeah.
that is out there that might get locally available.
It's very expensive.
I know that.
It's good. Oh, it's-
Again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ones like shingles or
Expensive.
There's a house, I have a client that lives in,
Thank you, too, sir. All right, Jeff, you have something additional for us to consider?
I sent an email out today about the vacant lot at 415 Westview. We have somebody who, I think they're from Simpsonville originally, but they're moving to this area. And they're a home builder, and they have found a lot on Westview that they would like to build a new house on. Obviously, we have not done much in the way of housing in any of our residential districts, and they are not familiar with the VAR process either. And so what they have done is they have submitted a couple of drawings, pictures of houses that they're considering, and would just like some initial feedback. They will probably be on your October agenda for this. And so they do all their own house plans, and so they'll have four-sided renderings for us to look at, so we see the totality of the house, but just so they feel like they're headed in the right direction, they just wanted any kind of initial feedback that the board might have. And so they submitted 3 drawings. We have this one here. This one here.
that is,
I love that one.
that's adorable.
That's my favorite one. And this is the 3rd one.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Just sort of in the right direction. I think you're probably looking at hardy board, architectural shingles, hardy board siding. I think is sort of the intent that they're going for here. So they want to know some kind of, you thought this was going in the right direction. This might be something that's a possibility.
And the address, again?
It's 415 Westview. Is it right behind your house?
Their
Right behind-
property and our property share a line. Yeah,
Okay.
they're gonna back up to us.
Great looking bungalows. And you've gone through them with material.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Better mention the solar panel thing.
The what?
Solar panels.
No solar
Oh,
panels.
that will affect me, so I'll,
Yes.
yeah.
So, and if anybody has any feedback, just, get that back to me. I'm inclined to tell them that the board is generally in favor, look favorably upon the different designs.
The first one looked like it was on a slab.
Yeah, that was what I was trying to.
Yeah, I think, that,
It being
the
raised.
design itself is not so bad, but I would want it on a foundation. But that one to me is charming. This looks like it fits in the
Looks
neighborhood
like
to
it's
me.
always been there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, and I thought that as well, so.
There are a lot of houses with porches similar to that area.
So what I'll do is I'll tell them that the board, kind of generally was in favor of them, they like this one, they like the other one, if it were not on the slab, and so that'll give them some feedback as to, what to do moving forward. And I would anticipate, again, this being on your agenda next month, so.
Very good. Thank you. And now finally, the approval of the minutes from the August meeting. Had an opportunity, I believe, to review them. Thank you very much, Yolanda. As always, try to keep up with us. That's all you can do. Is there a motion to approve? A motion from from Mary Lou, second I saw from Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anything further tonight? Thank you very much for your patience, attendance, and interest. Motion to adjourn. Thank you, Moyer. Andy, second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.